Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear sisters. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Selma. I'm a mom of 6, and here we talk about all kinds of things related to parenting and raising kids in a Muslim family. So today, I went for a walk this morning, and then I was listening to a podcast, and it kind of reminded me about something that I wanted to talk about here, and that's how to deal with overwhelm, and particularly as a Muslim mom, how to deal with overwhelm, what to do when you're just feeling blah, when you're just kind of feeling like you want to quit, right? But parenting and being a mom is not something we can quit, right? And that's something we can just walk away from. And so even when we're feeling blah, or if we're feeling overwhelmed, or if we're feeling stuck, we need to have strategies, how to move forward. And sometimes, a lot of times it's saying no to certain things, reducing our load and these kind of things. But in case of raising our children, there's not many things we can say no to. We got to stay with them, right? We got to keep the kids, right? And so I was thinking about, that I am now in a season of life that's not quite as overwhelming as it used to be, right? My kids are older. And sometimes when you pass that stage of overwhelm, it's hard to kind of think about it. Like it's hard to kind of say, oh, you just say, oh, alhamdulillah, I just dealt with it, it passed, alhamdulillah, right? Like it's kind of hard, we kind of appreciate it when it's over, but when we're in it, it's kind of hard to think straight, right? And so this morning as I was walking, I was thinking about, times in my life when I was overwhelmed and, what would help me. And I remember that I wrote in a journal many years back, what to do when I'm feeling overwhelmed. So one of the days I just kind of sat down and I wrote a to-do list for myself, because in the moment of overwhelm, we don't really quite know what to do, right? Like that's why we're feeling overwhelmed. But then in a moment of clarity, I guess I had sat down and I've written out a list, kind of like a to-do list. What would I do if I felt like the day was crazy, And so I found that, and this was, I think, in my journal. This is my little journal from that time. This morning I looked it up, and this is 2018. So I kind of looked back, and this is, 6 years ago. And so my youngest was about 2, right? And so she was a toddler, and I was still breastfeeding at the time. And I had a son who was about to graduate from high school, right? And so I had teenagers. We were homeschooling all the kids in the middle. We were traveling. We're doing the same things we do these days as well, right? Like our life was full. And don't get me wrong, life was full of blessings, and life is full of blessings, alhamdulillah. But it doesn't mean that two things cannot be true at the same time, right? Like we can be full of blessings, but we just have maybe a lot of blessings to deal with, right? And so it's totally normal to be overwhelmed, right? And it doesn't mean that we're not grateful, doesn't mean that we don't appreciate the blessings that we have in our lives, right? And so when I look back at that time, my hands are really full, from a toddler, from breastfeeding, from homeschooling, high school, from, doing all these kind of things. So I wrote out a list of things, and I want to kind of go through it, because it's something I still do to this day, but it's kind of become second nature. But at that time, when you're feeling in the moment, it's really kind of hard to look straight. And I would then look at the list and kind of see, okay, how can I recover here? What can I do here? And so this is a very practical list. It's not a philosophical list. We all know, the gratitude, the tawakkul, the dua, and all these kind of things. I'm not minimizing any of those kind of things, but I just wanted to kind of go be very, very practical. This is a list, that I wrote for myself, as an action item. And so I encourage you to do the same. Your list is not going to be the same like mine. And so just kind of keep that in mind, right? Individualize it for yourself, as everything else that I say on this channel. So number one thing that I put on my list was to kind of put myself together. Like that was the first thing, which meant go to the bathroom, make wudu, brush my teeth, brush my hair, change into an outfit, just kind of put myself together. And I think this is important to mention, especially if you're kind of running around with children and if you have little ones, that we kind of put ourselves last. And so sometimes for those of you who have tiny babies, sometimes you even delay going to the bathroom because, the baby needs you, or, the stuff is cooking, or, and so then you kind of just get worse and worse and worse, right? And so my first to-do item was, just to kind of refresh myself, because I need to refresh myself so I can function, right? And so part of that was also to make wudu. Part of that was also to refresh myself with cold water, to just kind of brush my teeth, to feel fresh, right? And so that's the kind of first step. So whenever you're feeling kind of blah and just kind of feeling overwhelmed, take 5 minutes, right? And so even if the kids are crying, even if the baby's crying, you can do that as soon as the baby is asleep. Just kind of make that effort to put yourself together as a first step, right? And so I found like just that refreshment, if you have time to take a shower, more power to you. But maybe if things are crazy, just change into a new outfit, get your hair done. Basics like 5 minutes. If you have to put a timer on for 5 minutes, that works as well. Like don't overdo it. But the key here is just to kind of put yourself together as a first step when you're feeling overwhelmed, right? The next thing would be to look and to pray whichever prayer is due at that time. Okay, so don't forget Salah. Salah is incredibly important. Your prayer is incredibly important. So let's say, you're running around and it's 3 p.m. and, kids are crying, everything, you're just feeling like the days. So take a look. Did you pray Dhuhr? When is Asr in your, vicinity? So, be prepared for that prayer. And then, or maybe if you're late, make up what you have to make up, but don't make it too complicated, right? So just pray whatever is next. So for example, in the evening, if the evenings are crazy, make sure you pray your Isha before it gets even crazier and you maybe fall asleep and you don't even pray, right? And so refresh yourself. That's like a 5-minute kind of thing. And then go pray whatever prayer is due at that time. Now, if there's nothing to pray, alhamdulillah, maybe it's in the morning kind of period. You had prayed Fajr in the morning already. If you missed Fajr, maybe due to babies crying or something, make up your Fajr and then just kind of go on about your day. But make du'as. Use that opportunity to make dua and ask Allah what you need help with. Say, Ya Rab, I'm overwhelmed with such and such at this moment. Just make it easy for me. Make it easy for me to go through this day or whatever it is that you're facing with, So after you refresh yourself, make dua, okay, and go pray. Those are the kind of two things. The third point is to just drink some water. Hydrate yourself, okay? So as moms, we often forget to just nourish ourselves. And sometimes, when I feel like, I want to change my entire life and everything is wrong, sometimes I just need a cup of water, right? And so I've gotten into the habit of just carrying a water bottle around, filling up a water bottle. I live in a very hot climate, so I made sure that I got one of those insulated ones that it, keeps my water cold. And so I keep carrying that with me. I noticed that when I'm driving long distances, I tend to get a headache, because the car is hot and it's just, the stress of driving. So I keep my water bottle with me just to keep hydrated, right? So after you've done your put yourself together kind of routine, after you've prayed, go drink some water, refresh yourself. If you're taking any supplements, this would be a good time to take them. If you're taking iron supplements, if you're pregnant, maybe vitamin D, super important, So take a moment to just kind of hydrate yourself and just the kind of, so all these things, the bathroom and the prayer and the drink water kind of thing, this is less than 10 minutes, right? And so this is kind of should serve to ground yourself, to kind of just put yourself together. And even if it's total chaos, just to kind of, this is what we want to be doing first. Like you need to charge your batteries first. And today what we're talking about, this is kind of the first aid kind of thing. I'll make a video what to do when you're chronically overwhelmed, when when your life is just falling apart all the time. But today this is like the sort of first aid, how to put yourself kind of together when everything's going wrong. So the next step is to think what's for dinner or what are we going to eat as a family, right? And so after you've kind of taken a moment to drink a cup of water, think about it, what's for dinner. What are we going to eat? Does that mean you have to pull out something from the freezer? Does that mean you can just make pasta, something simple? You're going to make eggs? Are you going to order something out if that's an option for you? Just kind of think kids need to be fed. So what's for dinner? And that's just kind of going to be a big relief for your family to know okay, there is food coming, okay, at some point, right? So what's for dinner? Dinner is usually the big ones or whatever. Maybe lunch is your main meal, but what's your main meal of the day? And is that sorted out, right? That's the first thing to kind of figure out. The next thing is to figure out when's bedtime. When's bedtime? The kids' bedtime in mind, right? How long have we been awake? Are people tired? Did we skip a nap? What's going on? And how many hours do I need to kind of survive on here? So if it's 8 a.m. and it's 8 a.m., I just woke up and I'm feeling overwhelmed, and then at least I figured out what's for dinner. I have a plan for dinner. Then I can just kind of say, okay, we woke up really early. maybe we'll all take a nap. We used to do family naps when the kids are really little. Like we would just all kind of try to, have some rest, and just kind of take a break in the middle of the day. So figure out when it's bedtime, like how long is your day going to be and how are you going to fill the time, right? So you might be feeling overwhelmed in the afternoon, to sort of that like crazy hour where everybody's getting cranky, 4, 5, 6 in the afternoon. Then just hang in there. Bedtime is soon. Okay, just hang in there. Don't lose it, right? And then, so after we figure out what's for dinner, when is bedtime, and the third is like, what are the kids doing? Okay, what are the kids doing? And usually when we're feeling overwhelmed, this kind of rubs off on the kids. Like we are cranky, we're short on, our face is not the most warm and the most friendly, right? And I'm a victim of this. I've done this so many times as well. And so once we put ourselves together, then you can just kind of say, okay, what are the kids doing? Can we do something together? Can you bring people together? Can you guys just sit and maybe play a game together? Kids are usually wanting your attention, right? And they want to do some close time with you. Now, if you're not able to spend any time together, if you're just feeling utterly overwhelmed and you're just kind of fed up, then set the kids up with some activity that you can do. Maybe put out some coloring paper, or maybe, get the Play-Doh out, or, have something ready for this kind of, just make sure the kids have something to do. Because if they have nothing to do, they're just going to be causing trouble, meaning they will want to get your attention, but maybe in a more negative way, right? Like they will kind of try to ask you too many questions, or they're going to start fighting with each other, right? So you got to figure out something for the kids to do, ideally with yourself. Like ideally you would kind of pull it together and say, okay, let's play a game together. Or a good one that works in our household is like, let's put on some nasheed, let's get the energy going. Usually that improves my mood as well. And so we kind of change the vibe of the household, right? If everybody's struggling. And so, or it could be, let's go outside. Okay, so what are the kids doing? So the kids need something to do, and ideally with you. So you figure out your food, you figure out when's bedtime, you figure out something for the kids to do, and then you can kind of take a breather, right? Like just to kind of figure out. So for me, a big one is to just go outside and go for a walk, get some fresh air, and even the kids will feel better if you're able to do that. Right now, you might live in a climate where this is not possible, like it's getting hotter here in the UAE, or you might live somewhere where it's really cold, so it might be hard. But outside time, even in the cold, really helps, or even in the heat. So I always say, like, there's no bad weather, there's just bad clothing, right? Or bad gear. And so you kind of have to equip yourself, just some outside time will make a difference, right? And just, if you're able to take the kids to the park, or if you're able just to let them play outside, or even for you, even if you have to sit on a balcony just for a few minutes, it's gonna make a difference in your well-being, right? If you just get some sunshine, right? And so I think it's important to just kind of consider how can we get some outside, how can we change the environment a little bit. Now I know a lot of moms are stuck indoors, right? Like you're stuck in your home, you're maybe not driving, but just try to kind of be creative here, because that's going to make a huge difference in your well-being and in your feeling of overwhelm, right? This is kind of the first aid, right? So the kids are fed, when they're going to go to bed, you've played with them a little bit. And so the next thing would be to just kind of do a walkthrough through the house and just kind of do the basics, when you're feeling overwhelmed. So do not start deep cleaning, that's going to stress you out. But just make sure the trash is out, make sure the dishes are all piled up in the sink, they're not all over the house, and make sure the laundry is going, right? Those would be the three things for us. It's always like the dishes, the trash, and the laundry, because we got to keep going, because it's a large household. If we don't do the laundry, we're going to get behind. If the trash is out, it starts to stink, it's nasty, right? It affects everybody. So we gather the trash, we make sure the dishes are all at least in the sink or in the dishwasher, and we figure out a load of laundry is ongoing. So those are the three things just to kind of keep you going. And then, so once that is kind of running, this is your basic first aid kit, the household is running, right? Like, you might be behind on everything else, but things are moving, right? Things are moving. Then you can kind of, I would highly recommend for you to sit down again 5 minutes with a piece of paper, or maybe your phone and your app. And so instead of scrolling, instead of going, to your social media app and looking how well put together everybody else is, just make a list of things that are bothering you. Just make a list of things, just kind of do like a little brain dump. Why are you feeling overwhelmed? What's going on? and just kind of do that, and ask yourself, okay, what's going on here? Is there something, that's bothering me? Try to identify the source of your overwhelm. Is it because you haven't slept? Is it because you haven't had a break from the kids? Is it because your spouse is not helping? Maybe he's overwhelmed at work. Maybe you guys have not connected. Maybe your in-laws are putting too much pressure on you. Maybe you're lonely. Maybe you haven't seen a friend or anybody, so you have to kind of identified yourself first before you restart, trying to look for a solution. Because a lot of times, we're just kind of saying, okay, we're not feeling well, but we don't really know the root cause. So I would spend about 5 minutes just kind of brain dumping and just kind of figuring out what is going on with me, right? And so the other thing that comes after that for me, it's to pick up a mushaf and read some Quran, preferably the translation if I don't have time and the energy to read the Arabic, but Arabic is highly, highly recommended. So just again, put a 5-minute timer and just read for 5 minutes. Something will inspire you there, inshallah. Again, and we're talking about, this is like a first aid kit. This is like when the day is really going bad. So all these kind of things are like 5-minute chunks, what you can do. And I like to write this list down so I can just kind of check it off. Okay, this is what I've done. Next thing, right? And so I would read for about 5 minutes. If you feel like the kids are now busy playing, your laundry is ongoing, food's, you have an idea if it's defrosting or, the delivery guy is about to deliver it, right? These kind of things. Then you can have those 5 minutes reading and just kind of recentering yourself, right? And then, of course, go to sleep early or have a nap. Like this is a major thing, like our energy levels are gonna suffer from it, right? Like when we're sleep deprived, everything is going to be way worse, right? And so the important thing is to know that none of us are overwhelmed on purpose, right? And so we have very good intentions, but the unfortunate part is when we are overwhelmed, our kids get the short end of the stick. Like we get cranky with them, like it kind of, and they don't benefit. They don't know how much we love them and how much we care about them. They just see our tone and they just see our behavior, right? And a lot of times we let it out on them. So it's really, really important to kind of troubleshoot this, and to keep showing up, because this is our job, right? We're mothers and we're here and we cannot outsource the kids. The kids are here with us. And so we need to kind of figure out a way how to deal with the overwhelmed in that sort of first aid kit. I would also recommend for you to touch base with your spouse and just kind of let them know, hey, today's a crazy day. What's going on with you? How are we operating? Have some bit of a common language just to kind of say, hey, I'm like 10% today. I'm just really, really overwhelmed. Can you help out with this? And then, give them a specific thing to do. Like, don't expect them to just kind of read your mind, but then say, hey, could you pick up some food on the way back? Or, or could you take the kids out once you get home? Like, just kind of come up with a way, like what is bothering you? So where can he step in and help you and ask for that help instead of, being upset that he's not reading your mind and he doesn't know how overwhelmed you are. And it's important to get on board, to help each other, to work as a team, right? And again, this can happen. Men can also be overwhelmed, so they might be having a hard day. Maybe they're dealing with all these kind of things. The tips are the same, refresh yourself, go pray, make dua, figure out, 5-minute little things, what you can do so you can recover, and then go to sleep early. Now, this is the first aid sort of kit. If you find yourself chronically overwhelmed, if you find yourself like life is just not getting better, like there is constantly stuff going on, this is then, one of those things where you have to reevaluate your self-care in general. Like, are you really burning out in, so many areas? What are your boundaries? Who's overstepping your boundaries? Maybe you're doing things you shouldn't be doing. How are the relationships around you, with the family, with the in-laws, with your husband? Those are all contributing factors, right? And so this video is not about the chronic overwhelm, but this was just more like the first aid kind of thing, what to do on a daily basis to kind of feel better. And so if you're in it, just kind of try the checklist. Sit down now if you've done watching this video, make a list of things, like I said, bathroom, put yourself together, salah, water, what's for dinner, what are the kids doing, when is bedtime, an activity for the kids, go out, figure out how you can get some fresh air, journal for 5 minutes, read Quran for 5 minutes, and that's it. So, and all of these things, together take less than half an hour or an hour, right? But they should make a big difference in your day and in your feeling of overwhelm. I hope this helps, inshallah, and I'll see you in the next video. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.